Carter stared at the radio console, his hands frozen over the controls. The voice continued, cold and mechanical, reading names he knew by heart. His crew, his men, his responsibility. All declared dead in 6 hours. "Turn it off," he said quietly. Jensen hesitated. "Sir, the transmission is still—" "I said turn it off." The silence that followed was worse than the broadcast. 89 men, packed into a steel tube beneath the Atlantic, all now staring at their captain, all wondering the same thing. How do you command men who've just heard their own obituaries? Harris broke the silence first. "Captain, this has to be some kind of psychological operation. The Soviets. The transmission came through NATO channels," Carter interrupted. "Encrypted. Authenticated. Then it's a mistake, a drill gone wrong." Carter wanted to believe that. But in 17 years of submarine service, he'd learned to trust his instincts. And right now, every instinct screamed that something was fundamentally wrong with their reality. "Marcus," he called to the sonar technician. "Anything unusual on sonar?" The young technician shook his head, his face pale. "Nothing, sir. Just wait." He pressed his headphones tighter against his ears. "Sir, I'm picking up something. Bearing 270. Distance, it's impossible." "What's impossible?" "It's us, sir. The acoustic signature matches Ghostwater exactly, but it's moving away from our position." The control room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Carter moved to the sonar station, looking over Marcus's shoulder at the display. There it was, a ghost echo, identical to their own signature, heading northeast. "That's not possible," Harris whispered. But it was there. Undeniable. Another USS Ghostwater, moving through water where no submarine should be. Carter's mind raced. The transmission said they'd be hit at 0840. Current time was 0228. 6 hours and 12 minutes. He looked at his crew, some terrified, some confused, all looking to him for answers he didn't have. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered. "Harris, plot a course away from that contact, maximum silent running. We're going dark." "Sir, if we break radio silence—" "We're already dead according to that transmission. Let's make sure we stay alive to prove it wrong." As the crews scrambled to their positions, Carter returned to his quarters for just a moment. He needed to think. On his desk sat a photograph, his wife Sarah, his daughter Emily. He'd promised them he'd come home. He'd promised, but promises meant nothing to the ocean, or to whatever force had just predicted their deaths. The next hour passed in tense silence. Ghostwater descended to 320 meters, pushing the limits of her hull integrity. The deeper they went, the safer from torpedoes, but the closer to being crushed by pressure. "Sir, the contact is still pacing us," Marcus reported. "Maintaining exact distance. It's like it knows where we're going." "That's impossible," Harris said again, but his conviction was fading. Carter studied the charts. They were 70 nautical miles from any known Soviet position. Whatever was tracking them wasn't on any intelligence report. "Captain," Jensen's voice cracked. "Another transmission coming through. Same frequency." Carter's jaw tightened. "Play it." This time the voice was different, distorted, wrong. "Captain Carter, you cannot outrun an echo. You cannot hide from what has already happened. 0840, torpedo impact, port side, section 3. All hands lost." The transmission ended with a sound that made Carter's blood freeze, his own voice, screaming commands he hadn't yet given. "What the hell was that?" Harris grabbed Carter's arm. "Sir, that was your voice." "I know." Carter pulled away, his mind working through impossible scenarios. Time paradox, parallel dimension, mass hallucination from a gas leak. "Run full atmospheric checks," he ordered. CO2, oxygen, anything that could cause hallucinations. "Marcus, keep tracking that contact, and someone get me a damage report on all torpedo tubes." "Sir, torpedo tubes are secure," reported the weapons officer. "All systems normal." But nothing was normal. Nothing had been normal since that first transmission. At 345, Marcus called out urgently. "Captain, the contact is changing course. It's heading directly toward us." Carter felt his chest tighten. "Speed, 30 knots. Impact in 4 minutes." Evasive maneuvers. Dive to 380. The submarine groaned as it angled downward, pushing past safe depth limits. The hull creaked and popped under the immense pressure, but the contact kept coming. 3 minutes! Carter's hands gripped the railing. He thought of Sarah, of Emily, of the 88 men who trusted him to bring them home. Deploy decoy! All stop! The decoy torpedo launched, emitting Ghostwater's exact acoustic signature. The crew held their breath, watching the sonar. The contact ignored the decoy completely, still heading straight for them. 2 minutes! Sir, we have to fire back, Harris shouted. Fire at what? At ourselves? But even as Carter said it, he knew Harris was right. Whatever was coming, it meant to kill them. Load tube 1. Target the contact. 1 minute! The weapons officer's hands flew over the controls. Tube 1 ready, sir. Fire! The torpedo launched with a muffled thump. On sonar, they watched it race toward the contact. 30 seconds. 20. 10. The torpedo struck, and then something impossible happened. The explosion didn't destroy the contact. Instead, the sonar screen went black for 3 seconds. When it flickered back to life, the contact was gone. But in its place appeared coordinates, a location, and a timestamp. 0840. What is that? Harris leaned over the sonar display. Marcus's face had gone white. Sir, those coordinates, that's where we'll be in exactly 4 hours and 55 minutes. If we maintain current course and speed. Carter felt reality sliding sideways. The transmission had said they'd die at 0840. The contact had shown them exactly where. And somehow, by destroying the echo, they'd confirmed the prophecy. Change course, Carter ordered. Heading 180, we're not going anywhere near those coordinates. Sir, that course takes us into the Soviet patrol zone, Harris warned. I don't care, we're not dying today. But the ocean had other plans. At 0512, the hull sensors detected something that shouldn't exist, a pressure anomaly. The water around them was behaving incorrectly, as if gravity itself had shifted. Captain, we're experiencing drift, reported the helmsman. I'm correcting, but we keep sliding back toward those coordinates. Carter checked the instruments himself. The helmsman was right. Despite full power on a southern heading, they were slowly drifting northeast, toward 0840, toward death. It's pulling us, Marcus whispered. Like a current, but wrong. Carter had faced Soviet destroyers, depth charges, equipment failures, but this was different. This was the universe itself, telling him, you will die at 0840, at these coordinates, and nothing you do matters. He refused to accept that. All hands, he announced over the intercom, keeping his voice steady. I know you're scared. I know what we heard, but we are not dead men. We are the crew of USS Ghostwater, and we decide our fate. Not some transmission, not some phantom echo. Us. Silence greeted his words. Then, slowly, he heard the sounds of men returning to their posts. The hum of systems powering up, the crew choosing to fight. Harris approached quietly. Sir, even if we survive past 0840, how do we explain this? How do we report that we heard our own deaths? We don't, Carter said, because we're going to prove that transmission wrong. And then we're going to find out who sent it. And if we can't? Carter didn't answer, because the truth was, he didn't know. At 7:30, the impossible became routine. They'd encountered 3 more echoes of themselves, phantom Ghostwaters that appeared on sonar, paced them, then vanished. Each one broadcast fragments of the future. Screaming, explosions, the sound of metal tearing. The crew was fracturing. 2 men had to be sedated after attempting to abandon their posts. 3 more were convinced they were already dead, trapped in some afterlife purgatory. Carter maintained order through sheer force of will, but even he felt reality crumbling at the edges. At 0815, Jensen received one final transmission. Captain, you need to hear this. The voice that came through was Carter's own, but older, exhausted. This is Captain William Carter of USS Ghostwater. If you're receiving this, then I failed. We all failed. The torpedo strikes at 0840, port side, section 3. There is no escape. I've tried 17 times. 17 different courses, 17 different decisions. It always ends the same. You cannot change what has already been written. Save yourselves the pain. Accept it. I'm sorry. The transmission ended. Carter stood frozen. 17 times? 17 loops? How long had his future self been trapped in this nightmare? He looked at the clock. 08:27. 13 minutes until impact. 13 minutes to prove himself wrong. Sir, contact on sonar. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Bearing 090. It's a torpedo. Incoming. There it was. The prophecy fulfilling itself. Time to impact? 12 minutes. 40 seconds, sir. Exactly 0840. Carter's mind raced through options. They could dive deeper, but the hull would collapse. They could surface, but the torpedo would follow. They could fire countermeasures, but future Carter had already tried that 17 times. Then Harris said something that changed everything. Sir, what if we don't try to escape? What if we go toward it? Carter turned. Explain. Every echo, every transmission, they all assume we're running. What if the only way to break the loop is to face it directly, to do what future you never did? It was in C. It was suicide. It was their only chance. Marcus, plot a direct intercept course with that torpedo. Maximum speed. Sir, that's... Do it! The submarine surged forward, racing toward its own destruction. The crew held their breath. 8 minutes. 5 minutes. 3. On sonar, the torpedo adjusted course, matching their speed, still heading for Section 3, port side. 2 minutes. Carter grabbed the intercom. All hands, brace for impact. Section 3, evacuate, now. 1 minute. The torpedo was 500 meters away. 400, 300. Sir, Marcus shouted. The torpedo signature, it's changing. It's not Soviet. It's ours. It's one of our own torpedoes. Carter's blood went cold. What? The acoustic signature matches our weapons exactly. Captain, we fired that torpedo, or we're going to fire it. Somehow, we're attacking ourselves. 30 seconds. And suddenly, Carter understood. The echo, the loop, the paradox. They weren't being attacked by an external enemy. They were being destroyed by their own future selves, trapped in a cycle of trying to prevent their deaths, only to cause them. 17 times, future Carter had fired at the threat. 17 times, he'd unknowingly fired at his past self, creating the very disaster he was trying to prevent. 10 seconds. Carter made his choice. Weapons do not return fire. I repeat, do not return fire. All systems to stand by. We let it come. Sir, trust me. 5 seconds. The torpedo was 100 meters away. 50. 20. Every man on Ghostwater held his breath, waiting for the impact that would tear them apart. 10 meters. 5. The torpedo struck the hull and passed straight through without exploding, because it hadn't been fired yet. It was an echo from a future that Carter had just prevented by refusing to create it. Silence filled the submarine. Men stared at each other in disbelief. Slowly, the realization spread. They were still alive. Carter checked his watch. They'd survived their own death. Epilogue. 3 days later, USS Ghostwater surfaced off the coast of Norfolk. The crew was debriefed, their story classified at the highest levels. Officially, they'd experienced a malfunction in their communications equipment that caused them to receive corrupted transmissions. But Carter knew the truth. He'd seen the edge of something humanity wasn't meant to understand. A crack in causality itself, where future and past bled together. He never received another transmission from his future self. The loop was broken. But sometimes, late at night, Carter would stand on deck and stare at the ocean. And he'd wonder, in how many other timelines was there a Captain Carter still trapped, still fighting, still dying at 0840? He'd made a choice that saved his crew. But somewhere in the infinite possibilities of what could have been, 17 other versions of himself hadn't been so lucky. The ocean kept its secrets, and so did Carter. He never told anyone about the final transmission he'd received, hours after they'd surfaced. The one that came through on his personal frequency, in his own voice. Thank you for breaking the chain. 17 is enough. I can rest now. Carter deleted the transmission, threw the recording device into the ocean. Some ghosts needed to stay buried. He walked away from the water, toward the light of home, carrying the weight of 17 deaths that never happened, and the knowledge that somewhere in the dark water, echoes still called his name.